Hey guys, I'm here to do something a little different today. So I've been sent this keyboard, the AL66 by YUNZII. So this is a sponsored video, but everything I say in this video are my own thoughts. They didn't tell me to say anything other than asking for a review of the keyboard. Here we have the box. It's pretty standard for the price point, which can be I've seen it go for anywhere from about 100, and recently I think it went for 85. So yeah, here's the information in different languages. I see Japanese and Chinese, and then we have the English instructions. The keyboard itself has 3 different modes of connection, which are Bluetooth wireless, 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which is still a wireless option, and then just plugging it in with USB-C. They give you a bag for keycaps for those of you who use a Mac. There's an accessories box which has a switch pooler and cable, and keycap pooler technically. And then we have the keyboard itself. You have Bluetooth line, which is just the USB-C port right here, and then to 2.4 gigahertz. It comes with its own keycaps and switches, and this knob over here. Pretty standard knob. On the side profile, you have a little translucent plastic strip for RGB to shine through. Here's the keycap. It's a double shot PBT. Decent legends. The modifiers look pretty decent. Nothing crazy, but they're quite good for budget keycaps. And here's the switch. Ooh. Okay. This is the milk switch that came built in the keyboard. It's a 3-pin switch, pre-lubricated. I can test it in the mic real quick. It's alright. For the price, it's pretty good actually. So, this is QC pass. I believe if I tear this off or break this sticker, I do void the warranty on this keyboard, which is unfortunate, but if you're careful, then you shouldn't have any problems. The screws in here are Phillips head screws, which are a little disappointing. I would much prefer a hex screw or one of the star screws, because these Phillips head screws tend to strip after a few uses. So it really limits the modability of the keyboard. So I finished unscrewing the keyboard. To disassemble it, you just take off the knob by pulling it off. There's no screw, it's just tension or friction fitted on there. You take off the top case, and then you have the keyboard assembly, the inner assembly, with silicone socks. These different tabs here. And then 3 cables connecting the what I believe is the battery, the wireless connector, and the wired connection. And then in the bottom you have this foam sheet, foam piece to sit in the case, and then a harder layer of foam, which I assume is for to stop the sockets from touching the actual metal. Here's the battery right here. These are, I believe, to connect the PCB to the daughter board and wireless it seems that the little housing to hold the dongle for the USB 2.4 was quite loose. A screw did fall out when I opened it, so I guess make sure that's tightened up. Then you have the light strips on the side. You can just slide them in and out. They are a tad loose though, so it might be worth to try using tape or just adding extra material to tighten the tolerances. I'm just gonna put them to the side. Besides that, you have foam gaskets around the top and bottom of the case. Here, if we come a little closer, you can kind of see the imprints. Here's the foam gaskets. Although they are quite thin, so I'm not sure how much impact they have on the actual mounting of the keyboard. Here's an inner assembly. As you can see, there's quite a few flex cuts. I would have preferred if they chose not to include PCB cutouts, but it's very understandable. Some people like the flex of the keyboard. I personally do not like how flex cuts influence the sound of the keyboard, but to each their own. Here are the keycaps. I'm going to take off the keycaps and I'll be right back. You can see all of the switches and the stabilizers, which are plate mounted. I would have preferred PCB mounted. They are a lot more secure, and I believe they are a little more consistent. These can grow a little loose with time, but you can mod it so that you can tighten the tolerances. So I guess it's not that big of an issue. I'm going to continue to take off the switches, and I'll show you what the inner assembly looks like. I got the switches off, as you can see, but it's kind of a nightmare. Switches were really hard to take off, and I will complain about that because that was very difficult to do. It took quite a long time. I would say like 15 minutes. I'll show you a clip, but I struggled a little bit taking off the switches because they were so hard to pry out. I tried all of my different switch pullers, the TX switch puller, this switch puller I got with my duck switches. I tried the YUNZII Studios switch puller. I tried the Mode Studios, or Mode Designs switch puller. I found that the TX one was the easiest, but that's relative. So I wanted to interrupt my disassembly of the plate in PCB to say that there were quite a few screws, 8 actually, that connects the PCB to the plate, which might be healthy for you know, switching out the switches if you're not trying to disassemble and reassemble the keyboard. But I would highly suggest against that anyways. If you're going to switch out your switches, I would highly recommend to take it down to this bare bones version before doing so that you don't end up damaging the hot swap sockets. The second thing I wanted to say is that you cannot take off the plate even if you unscrewed all of the connecting screws down here, unless you take off this nut on the knob module that has a washer connected to it. This washer and nut kind of lock down the plate onto the knob assembly. Just like that, we have the PCB. If you look a little closely, it's a nice, clean PCB. There's hot swap sockets. They are TTC hot swap sockets, and they all have individual per key LEDs, as you probably saw in the sound test. There are different modes included in the keyboard, so you don't have to worry too much about the LED customization. With the plate is a little clear plastic film, which I assume is for avoiding static charges hitting the PCB. Although, from what I am seeing, I think this little plastic sheet actually is carrying a little bit of static electricity. Might be a little counterintuitive. Yeah, it's kind of sticking to everything. It's not sticky, it's just static electricity. A little counterintuitive. Not sure where they were going with that. We have the PE foam sheet. It's not silicone, it's just white foam. And then we have a white foam, plate foam. I'm going to rebuild this keyboard with my own switches, and I'm going to test the difference between the stock variation versus the variation of different switches and keeping the same keycaps, and I'm going to switch out the keycaps as well to see how that influences the sound. The switches that I'll put in these will be the HMX Gachapon switches. Among HMX switches, it has a pretty muted sound profile, so I'm hoping that might accommodate well to the foam and, you know, general soft sound profile of the keyboard. So during the assembly of the keyboard, I did slide a little piece of tape in between the little crevice in the nub that fits together this little RGB diffuser, and it's a lot tighter. The tolerance is a lot nicer. Hopefully that does a little improvement to the sound, maybe a little force break. We'll see how that influences the sound of the keyboard in the final sound test. Now, let's try it with GMK Keycaps, see how it sounds. Okay, now that I have GMK Dracula R2 on the keyboard, let's hit the third and final sound test. So what do I think of this keyboard? I think this is a great keyboard for those of you interested in dipping your toes into the hobby. This board has a lot of modding potential, and although there are some shortcomings such as the Phillips head screws or the loose tolerances found inside of the keyboard, someone new to mechanical keyboards can use this as a stepping stone to see what they really prioritize in a keyboard, without breaking the bank. The RGB is quite fun, and the sound is pretty refined for a keyboard with this budget. There isn't too much to complain about in this stock configuration, so I think this is a great beginner's option. On the other hand, I can't recommend this for anybody who has already explored their keyboard preferences. This keyboard is not bad in any configuration, but it doesn't exactly shine in any particular configuration either. The Rainy 75 really nails down that super foamy sound, and the Nero series of the keyboards has a clean, clacky sound profile. While this keyboard has tons of features and customizability for the price point, it doesn't do any particular thing the best. If you're looking for something on the cheaper side to ease into this hobby, I think this is a great keyboard to begin with. Otherwise, there are many other strong competitors around the same price range. Since I own many other keyboards, many of which are 5 to 10 times the price of this one, I can't find myself personally using this keyboard. I want to be clear and say that even though I think this is great for the price, it's not fair to compare it to much more expensive and inaccessible keyboards. I plan to gift this to my friend who's been stuck with an obnoxious Razer keyboard since he's always mentioned wanting to explore beyond the gamer keyboard market. If you have any other questions about this keyboard, please let me know in the comments. I do my very best to answer every comment I see as soon as I read them. Thanks for watching until the very end. See ya.